Hey guys, it's Josh, and welcome back to the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad, your favorite podcast for learning how to balance between being a functional adult and a raging dumpster fire. And let's be honest, some days we're all a bit of a dumpster fire. Joining us inside the Bachelor Pad this week is Lauren Venables. Lauren, thank you so much for hanging out with us all the way on the other side of the world, it seems like. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm really excited to be here. Yes, tuning in from Sydney, Australia today, and I'm really excited to be here.
So, obviously, guys, we deal a lot with intimacy, shame, and just becoming 1% better than we are yesterday. And I think Lauren has a lot of practice with this because she's really taking healing journey to like the next level, not just for herself, but for so many other people. So buckle up, my bachelors and bachelorettes. You both might learn something today. Lauren, tell me how you got into the intimacy space to begin with.
Oh, such a big journey. How much time do you have? I grew up as a really shy, introverted girl. I had not really a lot of connection to my own intimacy, my own self expression. And I really struggled with those parts of myself. I didn't know it at that point, but I definitely had a lot of shame around my sexuality, around intimacy, around anything in that realm. So as I got older, obviously relationships happened and I was in a long-term relationship for 9 years and it was a really beautiful relationship. We were best friends and I guess became roommates versus lovers. So that was a really big turning point for me to tune in with myself of, okay, well, I desire more passion, more intimacy in my love life, but I didn't know how to get it. I didn't know that's story for later, but I didn't know how I was showing up in that relationship. I found myself, we ended that relationship really amicably, really beautifully. And then I found myself I dived into all the mindset work and, did every Tony Robbins course, did all of the mindset stuff and absolutely loved it. And then found, the power of my healing journey of, my relationships with men and number of experiences that had happened in my life. I was like, I want to help women to be able to move through this. So then, I started coaching and stepping into the NLP world, and really started with the mindset work at first, and then I started moving down the somatics and the body work side of things. I come from a dance background. I danced for 20 years, but I was very much still in my head. I danced from my head rather than my body. Then I started to find feminine embodiment work and more of women's work, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is what I'm here for. This is what like is actually going to create the deeper intimacy for me." So then, I really started, diving into it for myself, and then I guess integrate that now into my journey and my coaching with women. And I then found myself like I'm always evolving. It's like, the next couple of months I might be something different. But yeah, it's led me to this realm of intimacy, and this feminine embodiment and sexuality work has like helped me release so much shame and actually helped me create deeper intimacy with myself and with men and deeper pleasure and all the juicy yumminess that every woman wants.
For sure, it's such an amazing experience for anybody, myself included, when you have the opportunity to actually find your purpose. A lot of us who grew up in that millennial, late 90s era, we grew up in grind culture. So I'm just always so happy, so invigorated when I meet another person who's able to actually find a calling that they feel like it's almost not work. It's just something they enjoy doing and that they're good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thank myself, my younger self, every day for, actually leaning into the courage because it was so scary for me. So, so scary. I, I love what I do and definitely wouldn't be able to be in, the previous like corporate world that I was in. I'm so glad that I actually found, my purpose, and this is absolutely what I'm here to do.
For sure. Now, the name of the show, the Not So Bad Bachelor or Bachelorette Pad, is like pretty bold. So I have to ask, What's your current relationship status? I mean, are we single? Are we taken? Are we just trying to put one foot in front of the other and see what happens next?
I love that question. Currently single and definitely desiring deep partnership. However, in a space of coming out of a lovership earlier in the year and recognizing what I actually do want versus what I don't, and only accepting that now forward.
No, that's such a huge thing that I'm sure we'll revisit multiple times throughout this conversation. But a few years ago, boundaries was a really big trigger word for a lot of people. Everybody was learning what their boundaries are, setting boundaries. That's only a small portion of a successful relationship, in my opinion. What's more important than that is intentionality, knowing what I actually am looking for, because I could have all of the best and the healthiest boundaries. But if I am imitating my neighbor for a long, lifelong partnership, or the guy across the street who has a rotating, door,
Mm.
and that's not I'm not asking myself, "What do I want?" My relationship's still gonna fail because it's not what you're looking for. You're either gonna feel trapped or unfulfilled, and those are not 2 ways I wanna describe myself in any type of relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why would we want like somebody else's relationship if it isn't in alignment with what we want and our values? I think that's the biggest piece. One of the biggest pieces is to actually have common values within your partnership.
Definitely. Now, I'm assuming you work pretty exclusively with women. Was that fair to say?
Yeah.
So I'm kinda the opposite. I would say 98% of the time I'm working with guys, other bachelors in the space. And one question I like to ask them that I'm gonna flip to ask you is, do you think that some women focus on becoming successful so they don't feel like they need to be defined or to rely on a man?
Yeah, absolutely. And even just you asking that question, I feel a sense of like a little bit of sadness. Like I see so many women, hyper independent women, which are the women that I work with, who have built up this identity of the strong one, of being successful in their careers. And yet what I see deep down is the yearning to be in deep partnership. Like, yes, they say they don't need a man and they are totally fine on their own. And a lot of people would be, but yet the feminine women have this deep desire, like, generally every woman has a deep yearning within them to be in partnership, to be loved, to be chosen, essentially, to really experience that deep partnership. So it's yes, I see that there is a lot of women believing that they need to be successful. However, deep down, what I also see is that they're craving and yearning to not have to do it all on their own and to actually be held and led by a man or by someone else.
No, for sure. I see so many people who wanna feel validated, wanna know that they're capable in every aspect of their life, but they end up really just being disconnected from intimacy because they get so hyper focused. And realistically, they're wanting, like you said, that connection, that goal of finding their person, but somehow they don't feel safe unless they are in control. And
Mm.
intimacy isn't always safe.
It's the most unsafe thing ever. Actually unmasking yourself and being seen in the wobble, being seen in the version of you that doesn't actually have it all together. And if I'm speaking to the ladies who identify with being really strong and capable and successful, one of the most terrifying things as a hyper independent woman is to actually be seen in your mess, is to be seen in your vulnerability. And because will that mean that I'm no longer loved? Will I be rejected if I don't actually have it all together? Vulnerability means weakness, but we really need to change that narrative that it's one of the most beautiful, beautiful things to be able to feel safe within your vulnerability and know that it's not weakness. It's actually your superpower as a woman.
I could not agree more that we definitely need to change the conversation and the verbiage around intimacy, around vulnerability because those aren't necessarily gendered things and they're not strength versus weakness type of subjects. I think it takes so much courage. I don't think I know it takes so much courage to be vulnerable, especially with your feelings, with your thoughts, because we live in an era where everybody has so much access. And when everybody has access to your thoughts and feelings, it's really easy for them to get trampled on. So I love the fact that you spend so much time coaching women that it's okay to be vulnerable and it's necessary if you really want that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, I speak from experience. I was the strong, independent woman. I had everything together. Vulnerability was no way. If I could not share my feelings with anyone, I wouldn't cry in front of people. I would go, you know, behind closed doors and not let anyone know. I would let it just like hold in my throat and my chest because I couldn't let anyone see. And so it's through my own lived experience that I've leaned into this vulnerability, and go figure, it's now everybody's favorite thing about me because I can actually, lean into that vulnerability. Like a strong woman who can actually hold her vulnerability and her softness is such a powerful woman. So it's why I'm so passionate about it, because of the magic that unfolds when you do really connect with it.
I've been lucky enough to join a book club, and we've been reading this book called For the Love of Men. And it's about defining and redefining what it means to be masculine, what it means to be feminine. And I love the fact that they're two sides of the same coin, but there's something about harnessing both sides of that coin to make you a complete or more complete person. It really does just give you a whole new perspective on life and love.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, it's important to know that we both, as men and women, have both energies within us,
Mhm.
both masculine and feminine. And we get to harness both of them. And I think, yeah, it's such a big topic. And especially for women, if we're looking at, both sides of the feminine expression as well, we have the light and the dark. We have our softness and we have our fierce power. And we also have, we have our masculine energy as well, is the energy within us that can actually hold ourselves, the energy of discernment that knows that we've got ourselves regardless. And I know that, feel free to speak into that, that men get to tune into both of those energies as well.
Like you said, I feel like it's a little easier for women to tap into both of those energies without being judged as much. Like, there's definitely still a stigma around it. That's where terms like girl boss or the opposite side, when they're trying to degrade women, they call them crazy. They call them, sorry, bitches. But really, they're just really leaning into a more masculine role. And when somebody is embracing both sides, I don't think that makes them crazy. I don't think it makes them unbalanced or anything else that you can call them. I think that just makes them a person who knows themselves. But on the flip side, I feel like when a man embraces too much of his femininity, then the first thing that happens is his sexuality is questioned, his ability to lead, the physical trial. Like, people think that they can assert themselves on somebody who embraces that side, that nurturing side. But we all want to be a good dad. Like, being a good dad is universally a great benchmark. But you want me to be a good dad, but not nurturing. I just don't see how that kind of works in a sense.
Mm, yeah, I feel it's so super nuanced, and I take my hat off to you in a society like this that shames absolutely everything about men and women. And I guess, why the work that you do, and men working with men and having spaces to connect with, that sort of energy is really important and powerful.
No, for sure, for sure. And I'm so excited for the future. I was like, there's gonna be a lot of chaotic things happening, but I'm also sure that we're gonna have way more people just across the board who become emotionally intelligent. And I'm so excited for those relationships because heartbreak is kind of overrated. It's necessary for character development, but you can only handle so much of it.
Totally.
Now, speaking of being vulnerable, if you don't mind me asking, When was the last time you actually felt vulnerable with yourself or another person?
The experience that comes to mind, I mean, I feel as though I'm vulnerable quite a lot in my life, but this is the one that is actually most alive in my mind, would actually be the first time with my most recent relationship. We'll bring it back to relationships in this podcast, was me actually owning I couldn't do it anymore with this particular person because I actually wanted commitment. And that felt so gut wrenchingly heartbreaking when he said to me, I'm sorry, I can't choose you. And in that moment, I actually was okay because I respected him to actually communicate that as opposed to, ghosting. But it was definitely a really beautiful and vulnerable experience in me actually owning, hey, no, I actually have feelings for this man. And that's always been a really uncomfortable sharing for me with people. It's always generally been like the other person going first. And so, me actually sharing, hey, I would love to go deeper. Where are you at with this? It was the most vulnerable experience. But I also recognized within myself in that experience, and something that I will definitely change for future, is that I asked him how he was feeling as opposed to vulnerably saying straight away, hey, I'm feeling like I have feelings for you. Like, where are you at? I'm also asked him how he was feeling about the actual relationship that we had had. And that was huge for me to even ask that in the first place. And so I think definitely next time I get to honor first and foremost, hey, I'm noticing that I'm actually feeling like I want to go deeper here. Like, where are you at? Would be a learning in that. But that was a huge vulnerable experience for me within intimacy and relationships because it was one of the deepest places I had been with somebody.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I love the way you frame that conversation. So often we hear, "Let's define the relationship," like DTR, but
Mm.
there's something about the softening of that question to be, "How are you feeling? Would you want more connection?" Is it, I feel like that A is open-ended, so it gives the other person the opportunity to feel safe that there won't be an ultimatum coming up or that they have to make an immediate decision, which from what I see a lot of times, and not even just the younger guys I work with, I think all age ranges, is they don't wanna feel obligated to answer a question that stakes the entire relationship, but they're okay having a conversation of what they need or what they feel is missing in their relationships. So, I think, guys, if you're, like, listening to this right now, let me know. Would you rather just have a DTR conversation or actually open conversation that is more about how we feel and managing expectations?
Yeah. I think it's, yeah, the way we communicate like changes everything. And I think something to note as well for the women listening is, oftentimes if we've been going around in our mind for a while of like, where are we? What are we doing with this? We've already processed so much within our own nervous system. And then coming to our man with that, and it can be quite a shock for the system. And then the expectation is to, have that answer straight away, but we actually get to give him space to process it. And I know that we definitely as women, we can continue to talk over the top of a man or keep going because we process things so much faster. But what I can invite the women into is to actually, I think it's count to 30 in your mind until you actually, so you're giving the man space to actually process, because when you can wait a little bit longer, you'll get so much more out of a man rather than what you do get. And then you get frustrated because he's not deep enough or he's not giving me enough or whatnot. So that's just a little extra tip.
No, I can agree with that, and I had the opposite of that happen, I think, just yesterday, or we're filming this a few days after Valentine's Day, so it was Valentine's Day when I had this conversation, and my partner was like, "I'm listening to what you're saying, but I have to keep talking so that I can get the point out." But that also turned me off of the whole conversation because I wanna listen to you and I want to be engaged in the conversation, but if I'm trying to think and get out a point and you're talking, and then I have to try to process that while it's do the dual processing. I'm all about multitasking, but I think that's a little next level for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's if you're familiar with Alison Armstrong, she talks about women are diffused focus and men are single focused. So women like can the idea of multitasking, right? And men are much more single focused. Like if you're walking into a room with your partner and there might be some socks on the floor and the pillow is moved the wrong way or there's some dishes in the sink and when a woman walks in like it's all screaming at her. The pillow is saying move me, the dishes are saying why aren't I clean, like all of these things, whereas the man single focus goes straight to the TV or straight to whatever he has on his mind because that's the way he thinks. And so that's where a lot of conflict can happen. So it's in communicating from there to have deeper relationships and actually communicating, hey, I'm feeling this, could you help me with this? It's just understanding our differences.
That's a great bit of perspective that I know a lot of guys don't get. So I think this question is both for the ladies and the fellas listening right now. And I'm sorry that you have to be the spokesperson because I think it's been almost a year since I've had a single woman on the show. So you have to speak for the single ladies out there.
Oh, I feel special.
Yeah. I was like, listen, I love, and I'm happy that all of my guests have found a person or their person. But sometimes there's something about being a bachelorette, just still being actively in the field, that you get a different perspective. You have a different real life feel. So I'm like, oh, thank you. I was like, that your lovership didn't work out
Right.
because I was like, I could get some good content right here. Okay, so one of the biggest compliments that I've ever gotten and that I love to hear is that I make people feel safe. So this next question is a two-parter. What makes a man, quote unquote, feel safe to you? Or like what makes a man safe?
Great question. So personally for me is a man who listens and actually hears me out. A man who is in integrity. That's one of my strongest values. So a man who does what he says that he's going to do, I respect him. Whether that's in his everyday life of, he says he's going to go to the gym and then he goes to the gym, or whether he says I'm going to call you at 8, I'll speak to you then. Or whether he does that or not, that's a huge piece. I know that whenever I speak to men, it's like women, we're very intuitive and energetic and, not as tangible. So I'm going to try and make this as tangible as possible. But it's definitely a feeling for women. It's a sense of, okay, how do I translate into tangibility? So, me feeling a sense of safety is like feeling or knowing a man has got himself and he can handle himself, he can handle his environment around him. It's almost has protector energy, like he's moved out of the boy and into the man. Yeah, I'd say that they are the biggest pieces. Somebody who communicates honestly and is actually honest, they would probably be the biggest pieces for me in sensing that I feel safe. And it does actually come back to the safety I feel within myself as well. We can't always put safety on a man. Like a woman will only feel safe because of a man. No, a woman actually needs to create the safety within herself first and therefore then feel safe with a man. But they would be the pieces around men as tangibly as I can at the moment. More may come.
No, that's fine. And that's a really fair point that I will probably clip and share 1,000 times because it is your job to make your partner feel safe. But also, personal accountability. I love my generation, but we have this habit of knowing what's bad for us and then putting ourselves in unsafe or chaotic situations. And then sometimes we blame the other person, but realistically, it's like we put ourselves in this spot. So who should we really be upset with?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, going back, like I said, the second part to this question, we're chaotic, we are dysfunctional, we're addicted, not love, we are addicted to making bad decisions sometimes. But do you think that there is this phenomenon where boring and safe are great ideas, but we just actually don't like when they're sitting in front of us?
Great question. What I see or what I believe is that chaos and intensity feels familiar. So if you grew up in a household where chaos was familiar, where perhaps, dad was unavailable, mum was chaotic, or you needed to always be on alert, then your nervous system is going to be wired for that chaos. So that feels familiar to the nervous system. So as we grow up, we're going to continue to attract those experiences in our life because it feels familiar, because our nervous system is always trying to protect us. So if someone safe and calm comes along and that's different to what we're used to, the nervous system goes, no, hang on, this is boring. I'm going to push you away. I need some chaos in my life. I need like a essentially what looks like a horrible toxic situation to someone else, to this person could feel like home because that's what they grew up with, whether it was abuse, whatever the story is, that unfortunately feels familiar to our nervous system. So the work in that is actually uncovering what those experiences are subconsciously, what's actually living in the body, because the body holds on to that trauma, and then rewiring it so we actually can attract the safety and then feel safe with the safe man, with what people call like calm and boring, which is actually safe because it's not intense, right? It's not sparking the dopamine and the adrenaline. It's actually feeling like rest and flat. And if you're not used to rest, if you're not used to actually slowing down, it's like, oh no, no, thank you. I don't want this. I want my chaotic, emotionally unavailable man or woman. I want the crazy because that feels safe, which is, counterintuitive. It's wild, but our nervous system has a mind of its own.
100%. And that's a big question that a lot of people don't take the time to ask is this familiar or is it actual chemistry? This will always make me laugh. I've talked to so many people, men and women, and they're like, I really like this person. Like the date went well. We could go back and forth and it didn't seem boring. I was like, oh, great. So you're going to go on a second or third date? Nah, it just wasn't for me. And I was like, what do you mean? You just said you had an amazing conversation. You were engaging. Yeah, he's boring, Mo, or it's just a little too easy. I was like, cherish that because not all parts of the relationship will be easy. So when you're in a calm patch, please admire it instead of trying to stir the pot or just pass it over because you want a little bit of reckless fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think in those moments, I mean, there's a lot to it, obviously, rewiring that safety, but like, where can you find intensity or somewhat chaos like elsewhere in your life? Or where can you create that within the relationship together that would feel fun for your nervous system? I've even been there myself. I'm like, oh, this feels different. This is really safe. This feels a little more boring. Or this is when I first moved back to Sydney last year. I connected with somebody who like was just from the get go claiming me, knew exactly what he wanted. It was like it felt somewhat safe, but then I realized it definitely wasn't. So yeah.
Trusting your gut is so easy to do in some situations, but then for some reason, when you come to the realm of romance, the second, the third, the fourth guessing is unreal. We just have the hardest time trusting our gut. And then when we finally do, it's like we went full send on the wrong one, which then creates this loop of not trusting ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we learn in love. We are sent these people for a reason to be able to transcend those wounds, to be able to work through those experiences so that you actually can, receive the love that you're here for. Yeah, it's a really wild experience. And in that, it's learning. We can have an experience with someone, but then if you keep repeating the same pattern, that's when, you actually need to look at yourself and be like, okay, this is my pattern here. How do I actually change this? Because that's what, you're currently not feeling like you can trust yourself. So let's come back into the body. We always need to come back into the body and work out what does feel safe, what is a yes and what is a no, and go from there.
So much of being successful in any capacity, whether it's career, your personal life, your romantic life, is actively having that mindset shift. Like it, that's important. Like, you know, like I said, having that mindset shift, but also following through with it. Because we all have like a lot of good ideas, but do we actually follow through? And I could be wrong, but do you think that, like you said, just gaining perspective is enough to actually embrace intimacy, or is there more to it?
I think gaining perspective is definitely the first part of it, and, having the awareness, but it's actually having the courage to step in. It's having the courage to, acknowledge your patterns, where, the areas that you're not so great at and the areas that you are. And then once again, it comes back to the vulnerability and leading with vulnerability in those moments, because, the only way through is through, or the only way in is whatever that saying is, the only way, whatever it is, the only way out is through or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. If you are afraid and you never even go through the door, I have no idea how you expect to sit on the couch. Like you have, like the couch is over there. You got to go through the door to get there. I don't know what else to say. But that's so hard for some people because they have this fight between body safety and logic, because we know something is good or bad for us, but something just in us, like physically, holds us back from going through that door of opportunity, of connection. Then we're like stuck outside in the rain because we're so afraid to just go.
Absolutely, and it's all in the mind, right? Our mind, well, sometimes the body as well, but our mind is what is creating those stories to actually go there. And if we can just become the master of our minds and our body, and know what our yes, what our no is, what's actually going on internally for ourselves, and then taking the step, like the taking the step is everything, is having the courage to actually do it. That changes it. It's, yeah, our minds can be our best friends and our greatest hindrance. It's wild.
It really is. I say your mind is a prison, so you have to make it a beautiful one, because if it's the scariest place you know, I haven't found a real way to escape it. Or if I do, the decisions I made to get there also not safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. The mind is a prison. Get a beautiful one.
Lauren, thank you so much for hanging out today. I think I had fun. You're just easy kinda to talk to. I think things flowed, so hopefully you had a good time.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you so much. I loved the conversation. I loved your questions. I loved how it just flowed. And yeah, it was really great. It was really great to connect.
Have you heard, like, the golden retriever black cat thing?
Yes.
Okay, are you more black cat or golden retriever?
I think I'm both. I think, well, actually, hang on. What do you define as the golden retriever vibe?
So, the golden retriever, at least to me, is very energetic, super eager, maybe even overly attentive, just excited to just be in the presence of
Yeah.
the person. And then the black hat, they're okay showing affection on their terms for a very limited amount of time, but if you try to force it, they're out of there.
Yeah, okay, cool. Awesome. I think I like in the beginning, I'm probably a little bit more black cat. And then like if we're like in a relationship, then I just turn into a complete golden retriever, and I just overly affectionate, and I can kind of dance, like I guess it's, attachment theory as well, like, anxious versus avoidant. Like I can be a little bit disorganized sometimes of like knowing where to go, where to be. But I'd say that yeah, I think I would have a mix of both. Like if there's an animal or something that's in between those two, because I dance between the two.
I've realized this is I'm definitely a natural black cat, but the type of relationship I thrive in is when somebody can make me a golden retriever.
Mm.
And I don't know, I was like, I just wanna be so there, so present, so involved with my person. Like, obviously, I wanna give them their time, and I don't wanna, like, isolate them from the rest of the world, but when we're present together, I just wanna be so excited that I feel like my tail's wagging. I just don't know what to do with myself, and I'm gonna hop in your lap, you know?
I love that. Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we've made it to the end of another episode of the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad. give a huge shout out by hitting that thumbs button, by going over to Lauren's page and give smashing the follow button, not just hitting it, smashing that follow button. And all my bachelorettes, like I know this one was for you. If you are dealing with shame that you don't know how to process, if you are having trouble balancing success with intimacy or just connecting, I mean, there's only one person I can think of to recommend, and she's been talking to us for the last few minutes. So you know where you need to come to. 2026 is the year that we're not just becoming 1% better than we were yesterday, but we're actually taking initiative to find that forever person. Okay. So the first step to that is healing yourself and reaching out. Okay. I
I
will
love
see
that.
all you amazing bachelors, bachelorettes, and partner people next week for an all new episode of the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad. Until then, remember to love yourself and everybody else around you. Bye, guys.